Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Smell of Logic channel. I am Mona, and today's little Reddit video is what is the best, funniest piece of advice that you have ever received? Good luck with that move. Remember, don't dip your pen in the company ink. I think we all know what that means. I'm not going to explain it because I really don't want. Anyway, on to the amusing advice, I guess. My boss, when I was very wet behind the ears, a very wet behind the ears 16-year-old, in an insanely busy supermarket bakery in Cornwall. Welcome aboard. Listen to your supervisor. Don't be a cunt. Tell everyone you don't like to F off. Receive this one from a nan on a bus on the way home from college. Working in kitchens can be a good source of life tips. If it's brown, it's cooked. If it's black, it's effed. If it looks nice and tastes nice, it doesn't matter how you got it there. There are two ways of doing things, correctly or again. Make sure your prep isn't shit. If people wanted to eat shit, they'd have stayed at home. You ring your bell and bitches come, unlike at home. Always tell a waiter who accuses you of doing something wrong that the only time you F up is when they're railing at their mom. Maybe don't use those with everyone. Don't eat yellow snow. That's my favorite one. I use that a lot. Never make a decision when you are angry or drunk. I once received some sage dating advice that hasn't steered me wrong. Don't drink Earl Grey and don't be a big whore. On my first day as an apprentice, an old pipe fitter said, never go for a shit in your own time. Always go when you're getting paid. Those are words to live by. Tell everyone that you're a terrible liar and do a practice run where you obviously overreact. That way, when you lie, you'll be more likely to convince them. That's actually pretty smart. I like that. Not that I use it, of course, but 3 rules of getting old. Never turn down an opportunity to go to the toilet. Never trust a fart, and never waste an erection. If you want something done right the first time, ask the laziest person you know. There is some logic to that, but I don't know. Don't jump off the rocks at Dirtledore. Take a jug of warm water with you when you go for a wee after giving birth. And someone asked, I'm not sure I should ask this, but why? And they reply with, it's to pour on your bits because getting urine on any kind of wound hurts like a mofo. Okay. When I was younger, I would meet at my mate's house for a can or two before going out for a drink. His dad would always stop him and say, watch what you're doing. If you're not in bed by 11, come home. Don't eat things that you find. The days are long, but the years are short. I received advice I received when I was a new parent. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Mark Twain had a good quote, and I can't recall the exact wording, but it went something like this. At 16, I realized my father was an idiot. By the time I turned 21, I was amazed at how much he learned in just 5 years. Some of these aren't quite as amusing as I was hoping, but that's okay. I was a waiter in my early 20s, and there was a grizzled old dishwasher who told me, everything catches up to you. Everything. I blew him off because I was young and knew it all and was going to live forever. Or so I thought. I later found out he was absolutely correct, for good or bad. The military will just chew you up and spit you out. My grandfather. The older you get, the faster time goes by. I rolled my eyes every time I heard that. Yeah. One prominent theory that has had a bit fair of backing for why this occurs is that you stop learning. Your brain only actually records something if it's deemed significant, and as you get older, most things are no longer new or impactful to you. As such, most events fade from memory very quickly because there are fewer meaningful events throughout the day. It feels like time has progressed quicker than it used to. There's some evidence that you can slow down this time progression our perception by purposely engaging in new, meaningful, or impactful things like learning something new, experiencing something new or interesting, etc. Basically, just live life more and stop feeling it so fast. I suppose that actually has some merit. This is the ultimate one. I always got annoyed at this and thought they were just too many regrets. Now I get a paycheck and boom, another paycheck, and it's been a month already. Like, what the F? Then one day you find out 10 years have gone behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. My uncle once told me life is like a roll of toilet paper. The more you use, the faster it runs out. Here's the thing. When you turn 1 year old, you have to wait your entire lifetime till your next birthday. Ha ha ha. The company only has your back if it's in their financial interests. So these are not quite as amusing as I was hoping or funny, but that's okay. If the woman don't find you handsome, then better at least find you handy. Freezing food always seems weird to me. Then I had to buy my own groceries and realized that I could buy meat when it's on sale, clearance, and have a nice stockpile. When COVID first hit, it was so nice to have so much available food. And now that everything is super expensive, it's great to go in early in the morning, buy marked down meat, and then freeze it for later. I do that all the time anyway. I'm 50 and I've finally started to go blind. Still no hair on my palms though. I thought I would have so many pets as an adult. I thought I would have so many pets as an adult when I could do what I want. Turns out I love animals but hate taking care of them. Too much money and responsibility. Now I see why parents didn't want a bunch of animals. Same thing with pools. I thought it would be cool to have a pool when I grew up. My parents got a pool when I was 11. It was my job to clean it. By the time I was 14, I knew I never wanted a pool as an adult. Yeah. When you're choosing who to marry, don't focus on looks. Looks don't last forever. Focus on voice. That does last forever, and you're going to be listening to that voice for the rest of your life. Nothing good happens after midnight. As a former bartender, I ignored this rule for a decade. After working late nights, I 100% agree. It's like a switch in people's minds go off at 12. Keep a jacket in your car, young lady. You know, my dad always drilled that into us constantly. Always take a coat. And I did for a long time. And then a few years ago, it wasn't bad weather where I lived, but we were traveling to a funeral and I was with somebody else. It was with my sister and her brother-in-law. And I brought my son with me just because I wanted him to see where I grew up, kind of thing, because we were going back to where I grew up, and it was the one chance he was going to go get to see it, even though it was for a funeral, blah, 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 blah. I didn't take a coat, and I didn't have my son take a coat, and by the time we got down to the funeral, it was snowy and awful and cold and miserable, and we both got sick on the way home. So, yeah, always keep a jacket in your car. When you're in your 20s, you worry about what people think of you. When you're in your 30s, you don't worry about what people think of you. When you're in your 40s, you realize nobody ever cared and thought about you. Yeah, that's very true. My nan had 4 kids. When I was pregnant with my first baby, my man told me, when you have been through labor and need a wee, for the love of God, bend over and grab your ankles. I thought she was being weird and just laughed it off. Now I can tell all you moms to grab their ankles for the first wee because urine and a stretched coochie do not mix well. Well, we found evidence of that on another. This is terrible. I see. Never mind. Let's just not go there. Air out your home. My parents did this obsessively. I thought it was insane. Turns out, indoor air quality is pretty bad to start with and gets worse with gas fires and people breathing. Yep. I didn't really think of it that way. I just always like to air out my house. I like the fresh breeze coming through to just it feels cleansing and stuff. That's just me. How do you air out your home? Just open the windows, get an air purifier. Opening windows, ideally on opposite ends of the room flat, and let the air circulate through for a couple of minutes. That multiple times a day. In summer, when it's too hot outside, most of the day. I only do it in the mornings and evenings. Yeah, it's kind of hard to do in the winter sometimes because it really makes your house cold, but it's still necessary sometimes. Youth is wasted on the young. My grandfather told me not to F other people over. That I don't do this is a genuine joy in my life. Save old jars and containers to use as cheap, free Tupperware and storage. My grandpa always had this advice. If you want to make more money, then change careers, not job. Probably makes more sense if you work in trade jobs, but I have been around long enough to know where I have seen people jump from 25 cents an hour to basically being financially in the same or worse position because they didn't realize something like healthcare premiums were cheaper, or they weren't fully vested in their 401k when they left. So now they lost a chunk of their retirement savings. It's cheaper to hire a professional to do the job than to try and save a couple of dollars to do it yourself. Eh, honestly, I think that's subjective. Cheap gets expensive, my father said. This is me for sure. If I can't do something with a quick YouTube tutorial with tools that I own that I'm not doing, then it's not worth the hassle. My dad used to say it doesn't matter what job you have, and it doesn't even matter if you like it. As long as you get some sucker to pay for your benefits instead of you paying for them, you'll always be doing very well in life. There's nothing sexier than a man with a 9 to 5 job. That's from Hank Hill, in case you're wondering, I guess. My grandpa always said, don't be cheap when buying something that stays between you and the ground. I always apply this to shoes, mattresses, and tires. In business, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Good health is the crown only the sick can see. You don't have to go to all of the parties. People used to tell me all the time that eating bad would catch up with me. I didn't believe it, even though I was in my 20s and was stick thin and scrawny. That changed almost immediately on my 30th birthday. You're free to wear sunscreen. Take care of your teeth, work hard at school. But trust me on the sunscreen. That's an old song, in case you were wondering. I guess it's not that old, but you shouldn't waste your money on possessions like clothing, jewelry, or cars because they only lose value and no one is impressed by any of it. Yeah, now I agree. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. There's enough dirt. It's physically impossible, unfortunately. Don't take a girl out for sushi unless you're going to marry her, because sushi is expensive. I took the girl out anyway, and man, it was expensive as hell. We didn't get married. Don't trust the government. I used to think grumpy old men were just looking for someone to blame for their problems, but now I think they've got a point. Don't trust large business either. An old teacher of mine in high school taught if you ask enough people out eventually, you'll land someone way out of your league. Even though I was an awkward nerd in high school, and that next year's homecoming I landed my now ex, there were lots of jealous guys with angry girlfriends, with lots of attention on me and my date. I ran into her again not long ago, and I swear she could probably be a Hollywood actor, or make it as a supermodel if she wanted to. Back then, me hating high school, my parents missed high school. They were telling me to appreciate it more because the life would be harder after, and I didn't believe them. Turned out to be true. I tell my son that all the time. He's like, I don't want to go to school. Like, there's gonna be a point where you're gonna miss it. So yeah, you're not gonna want to be where we are at some point. When I was engaged a few weeks before the wedding, my fiance asked me to come to her parents' house for a weekend barbecue. When I arrived, I went to the backyard and was surprised to find nobody there. So I knocked on the door. Her sister opened it, saw me, and said, "Just 1 second," and closed the door. Then she called for me to come in. She was completely naked. She said, "Everyone else just left to go to the store. We have 45 minutes alone. I know you'll be married soon, so why don't we have some fun while you still can?" Then she walked away to her room. I couldn't help staring. Her body was fantastic. Then I realized I was about to make a terrible decision. Turned around, I walked straight through the door down the driveway. My fiancée and her parents were there. She looked like she'd been a nervous wreck. She ran up to me, hugged me, and told me that she knew I was a good man. Her father shook my hand and officially welcomed me into the family. I'll never forget my grandfather's advice that saved my relationship that day. Always keep a pack of condoms in your car. It's an old joke, but it is still funny. My great-uncle once told me, never volunteer for anything. Years later, I realized he was right, because as soon as people know you are willing to help, they are always coming to you first. That is very, very, very true. Study hard now. You can play later. That's, again, something I tell my son all the time. Should have listened to that myself. Opa, Grandpa, used to tell me don't waste your time with a girl whose fingernails are longer than their fingertips. They won't do their 50% of the relationship. And anecdotally, it was very true. Every girl I dated with really long or fake nails didn't know how to cook, wouldn't get dirty or clean, and would expect me to do all the housework. Thanks, Opa. Found a girl with short fingernails, and it's been 16 years of marriage. I kind of believe that as well. I know lots of women. I know some guys too, honest right now, but that have the whole fake nails, the long nails, and I'm like, you obviously don't do a lot of manual labor. Yeah, me, I'm constantly breaking my nails. I keep them short anyway. But I don't do the fake nail thing anyway. So that's just me. If you do, that's fine. That's great. If you can do it, if you can afford it, hey, more power to you. But yeah, it does say something. Time does not. Time does make things feel better. You do just naturally and eventually get over shit. It takes a long time for some things. You look down, get some sunshine. I thought I had depression and anxiety. It turns out I was medically diagnosed with vitamin D deficiency, and those were the symptoms. Youth is wasted on the young. Well, we did that one again, but you had it right, Grandma. Be careful lifting heavy things. Not even 30 and got back problems. Turns out all those old guys with fucked up backs were on to something. Uh-huh. True story there. To change it up a bit, everyone told me to enjoy school while I could because it would be the best time of my life, even though I fucking hated it. Within months of finishing school, I got about 10 times happier. They could offer me all the money in the world and I would never go back there. Didn't even get bullied or something like that. Either just effing hated and despised that place. Well, see, there's another side of the coin. Um, some things that, people do say are the best for you are really sometimes not. It just depends. And the last one is watch what you wish for. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Don't burn your bridges down. So there you go. Some advice, if you have enjoyed some of that, hope it has helped you, or most of it you've probably heard before, or some variation of it, but something a little more lighthearted today. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the things, none of the things, some of the things, I don't mind. Also, if you go over to my Amazon author page, I forgot what it was called there for a minute. I am putting out a lot of coloring books. That's my big thing right now. There's a whole lot scheduled for release. Trying to release one a week for a while. So if you like to color or you know someone who does, I try to keep the prices as low as possible. Basically just covering the printing costs, so not making a whole lot. But hey, if you wouldn't mind going over there and finding something you like and purchasing one, that would be great. If not, that's okay too. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.